Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of Processing with Sam and Malik, a weekly take on life through the lens of husbands, fathers, believers, and most importantly, Philly sports fans. As always, this episode is brought to you by Sam's Community TV, creating content to establish a community through genuine relationship building. And before we begin tonight's episode, just would like to ask you to please hit the subscribe button so that you're notified when all of our shows are being released, and the notification button, more importantly, so you can join us live on the show. And if you like the episode, please hit the like button to help out the algorithm. So with that, Malik, how are we doing tonight, man?
Yeah, man, I can't hold you when you said, and most importantly, Philly sports fans.
I
Like
hear you.
Easter was yesterday.
I hear you. I hear you. It cringe in my own soul and heart too, because
I
I've
was
actually
like,
I never let in that way. So I'm glad. See, this is
not.
let me tell you what just happened here. And accountable in real time, live, before it even really escapes. Let's just bring it back because the airwaves can get tricky, right?
No, it's all good, man. It's all good. I just
Ourselves on this platform. Not most importantly, I think I'm actually going to change the intro because even though we thought about it originally through the sports context, if it's most importantly, it's as believers. So let's keep the
right.
main thing the main thing.
I mean, we can just take out we can just define it in general. But I felt like a little extra sin when you said that right after Easter.
Understood. I love it. I appreciate it. So that's how we roll here, folks. You know what I mean? Just to let you know, that's exactly how we roll here. So how are we doing, my friend?
Man, it's Monday. Mondays is Monday in, man. So it's Monday in for me. It's Monday in for the Phillies. Not for Caitlin Clark, but everybody else seems to be having a case of the Mondays. So how about yourself?
Honestly, today was a fantastic Monday.
Good.
Even though it rained in Philadelphia, still a fantastic Monday. And I will also say that Caitlin Clark is just a phenomenal player.
There's no question about that. So let's get into it.
Let's just do that now because, admittedly, and actually, before we do that, folks, if you want to join us tonight, what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and drop the link in the comment section so you can join us live. If any topic is of interest to you, it is now dropped in the link in the comment section. So yeah, NCAA tournament. What do we think? I mean, we started off saying that we thought the women's game this year seemed to have more of a draw, maybe a little bit more compelling than the men's tournament, at least.
There's no question.
Do we still believe that after this last weekend's?
I'm gonna answer your question two ways. One, obviously with Juju Watkins, Paige Buchers, Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese. They're all incredible. Let's not even talk about South Carolina that hasn't lost in like 17 years or something like that. But I'm going to answer your question. So the answer is obviously yes, just based on the names I just rattled off. But do you have any idea, Sam Granum, who Alexandra Sarr is?
Alexandra Sarr.
Ring a bell? Nope.
Not yet.
How about Nikola Topic? Nope.
No.
All right. How about let me throw this hot name at you, Zachary Riesescher.
I think I saw a name with a Z recently, so I'm going to jump out on the limb here. And what is a roster of a NCAA basketball team? What is
those are the prospective per NBA.com. Those are the prospective or the presumptive top 3 picks in the next draft. Okay. Now, the reason why I bring that up, I think, is to highlight the fact that I'm able to just rattle off like women's star after women's star after women's star. And there was a time in which the men's game had the profile. And I'm not lamenting the fact that it's changed. I really don't care about that at all. I think it's great in general. But the fact that I just gave you dudes with like accents and 17 vowels and definitely no U.S. passport, so definitely not playing in any of the NCAA men's tournament games that we just watched this past week or two, These guys are all abroad. I'm sure they can ball, but the fact that they're not here, that they're not on television, that they play in the Elite or the Ignite League, just shows how different the men's and women's game is right now.
So I think there's two reasons for that, and you're absolutely right. Here's I think the stark difference between the women's game and the men's game is that college basketball is not the only can you even really call it amateur circuit? I would in my day, back in my day, I would call it the only amateur opportunity was to play in the NCAAs, but theoretically it's the only opportunity for the top women player to showcase their skills at the highest level. That is the league that they would have to participate in order to play against the very best
Right.
at their age. There's
Right.
no other place they can compete against the best in the world at their age other than the NCAAs. Unlike what is now everyone is starting to realize in terms of the men's game, where college basketball is no longer the most dominant league outside of the NBA. There are other teams or other leagues that allow for players that are out of high school to participate in, and those leagues have a much higher skill demand, if you will, on the players. Hence, you're getting a better product.
Yeah.
So now you're in a situation where two things are happening. One, to your point, you just rattle off names that I don't even know. And two, I think you might even come to a situation where you actually have a USA versus international all-star game because the talent at the top is so balanced in terms of the world's best and the US best. I think you actually might be able to compete to see who wears the crown in terms of the elite players. I don't think they're all homegrown anymore.
Oh, there's no question about that. I'll even. I mean, I just pulled up last year while you were talking, right? Wemby was in France. Brandon Miller was number 2 pick. He went to Alabama. He's a good player. He probably will be a good player. Scoot Henderson was in the G League. Amen and All-Star Thompson were in the Overtime Elite, so another semi-professional league. Arkansas, I'm just rattling colleges. Arkansas, France, Houston. None of these guys, I'm scrolling. I mean, Keontae George, I'm in the mid-teens at this point in time. Cam Whitmore went to Nova for Houston. None of these guys, even domestically, who play at Power 5 conferences, who would be like why I would skip work on a Friday afternoon to watch the tournament, because Steph Curry's about to go off, or whatever the player is just about to, like Jalen Brunson and Villanova are going on another run. Like none of these dudes are dudes.
You know what's so funny? It's so funny you say that. And before I keep going, let me just shout out. We have someone in the chat, my man Mark, joining us tonight. Hey, brother, come on. Any topic that you hear that you're interested in, man, cam on up. See what you got. But it's funny that you mentioned that because let's see. I'm sorry, Malik. Your point, you're going over the top draft picks not being guys.
Even the cats who are playing in Power 5 conferences, right? Even the guys where we were talking about they might have pursued, the G League or Ignite League or some league abroad, whatever it is, so that you didn't have to take the traditional amateur route to go to the NBA. Those guys aren't even domestically growing at a way in which, like, they're going to be a sneaker endorser. They're going to be on the cover of NBA 2K. My kids aren't going to buy their jerseys, thank God, because those jerseys ain't cheap. Like, they're just not guys. And I don't know what's happening, but there was a point where you used to just laugh at, like, yo, basketball is a USA game, it's America's game, and you ain't gonna never get caught. I'm not saying that's happened, but like we're probably a cycle out from that conversation.
Listen, you remember the time when the NBA was concerned about how they were going to replace Jordan, right?
Yeah.
Like who was going to be the person to and the next face, and then you had sort of like it was a weird time, right? And the NBA suffered. It did suffer. It's again, my guy, the Ant-Man, He is doing more and more and more, where he's flexing more and more and more. I think coming into this playoffs, here's the beautiful part about how you carry the NBA. It's all about the postseason. It's it. It's all about the postseason. So in the postseason is when guys make their names, and then we'll see who the cream truly is, and they will be the legends to carry this the torch. I
But
think
that's it right there.
SGA coming in and Ant-Man, maybe those are the two guys that are the perennial playoff performers that start writing the narrative of the next NBA.
But that's it though, because we're looking at you write their narrative or have their. I don't remember. Anthony Edwards was a beast in college, but he was only there for a year.
Right.
Caitlin Clark has broken all of the records, right? She broke all the records and she still got eligibility left. Angel Reese can come back another year. Not that they are going to, not that they should forgo any opportunities afforded them. They should go do all of the things immediately and get what they can get, right? But I'm thinking to myself, like, the women's game is on 10. It's way up. And I think that's indicative of also the level of basketball that your men's domestic players are coming in the league with. Like, I know we're talking about the women's game. The women's game is everything right now. The tournament has been incredible. I can't wait to watch it. It is appointment TV. I couldn't care less, but the fact that, like, I still got UConn on the men's side winning it all. So my bracket's still intact in some form or fashion. But that's literally all I care about. Literally all I care about.
Listen, last week, and it's funny, Mark, you actually mentioned something that we're it's going to be a good segue into our next topic, man. But last week you were talking about UConn, and I told you I went with UNC based off of someone that, a young man from church.
Yeah,
I have not been connected to the tournament until this past week.
Right.
After last week, I watched the tournament. UConn is a special team.
Yo, they're a force.
I am such a fan of that brand of basketball. It's tough. It's tenacious. I mean, when any team that's a good offensive rebounding team, sign me up, because it's a mentality to hit the offensive glass. Because you also have to get back on defense. Yeah. Teams that are good offensive rebounding teams don't just give up the break. Like they have the mindset that I will secure the rebound and or get back. But they're not conceding anything. It's like you get the ball, you either have to get the ball or we're going to score. It's like the mindset is score at all times, always defend. To go on a run where Illinois, they said it was like 50 minutes had passed of real time. So you had 10 whole minutes of the second half.
Sam, they had like a 30-0 run or something crazy like that.
I've never seen it. I've never seen that before.
I couldn't. I'm not sure. Like, if I was going to play my 7-year-old son, that I would drop 30 in a row. Like, I might get lazy on defense and he might get a layup. Like, I'm not sure how that would go. So I don't know. Answer the question, man. It's appointment viewing. I see, man. Mark made a comment about Embiid or whatever it is. That's gonna be an appointment viewing too. I absolutely can't wait for him to come back. Absolutely. And I was mad. I was watching ESPN, all the Philly sports radio stuff, whatever it was, and it was not giving that enough attention. It was not.
It's weird. And you know what? But I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. Let's stay under the radar in terms of all the fanfare and hoopla. Let the odds makers still keep us as a sleeper. I'm good with all that. I think sometimes with this team, the expectations, we don't, it's like this is the first time we can actually go into a postseason where the team will just root for you to play hard. Like we don't know what you are anymore. We don't know what you should be and what you should achieve. So the expectation is, can you at least play hard and play together? And if we see you do that, I think we will be behind you. So I think the Sixers really just have like this clean slate opportunity to just walk into the playoffs this year, unlike in years past where no one cares about what they do in the first round because you're expected to win. And then, it's always been about, can you make it to the semifinals? Yes or no? And so this year, I think all of those expectations are kind of behind us because we know it was an unfortunate situation with Joel Embiid. He is coming back. We're not quite sure the form he's in. We know next year is a big year. That's why they made the moves this year to sort of set us up for next season. If we can salvage a playoff push with this team, maybe we can make a run. But Am I going to be crying if the Sixers don't get it together this year? I don't know if I'll feel that way.
I'm not sure it's crying as much as it is cussing. Like, there is no way, dog. There is no way. Let's keep it a buck. The idea that he's going to come, if he comes back, Nick Nurse is not putting him on a 25-minute ration. Like, that ain't happening.
Listen, they're putting that out there already.
He's not. He's going to play Embiid minutes. He may not go 40, but he's going to play a solid like 38.2, right?
Okay, timeout. At what point can you call malpractice if something like that happens? Like, there's the whole Kawhi Leonard scenario again.
Wait,
you have a guy coming off a knee injury, a knee surgery, and you don't even think about, and not a guy, a Joel Embiid, coming off of knee surgery, and you don't think about ensuring that they ramp him up. I think his hands are tied. I don't think
if he can't play a full now. Again, the next 6 games or whatever's remaining in the regular season, I'm not talking about that. They may ramp him up. There'll be a slow integration of him back into the team. They'll increase those minutes. I'm talking about once the play-in and playoffs start. That's what I'm talking about. When they get there, if you're still going to keep him on a restriction, then you might as well just go ahead and just play for the draft.
We'll see.
I mean, that's it. You might as well just wait. You might as well just wait and not play him.
Here's why I don't agree. And now I'm playing devil's advocate to a bit. I am. I'm saying this aloud, that I'm a bit playing devil's advocate. But here's my argument why I don't know if that is true. I've watched the Sixers play, and I watched them play hard. And in my opinion, even if they got 25 minutes of a player of the caliber of Joel Embiid, I think they would be winning a lot more of the games that they're losing. So he's just that dominant of a guy. If you told me I can get 25 minutes of that player a night on this team, I think Nick Nurse will figure out the best times to use him to make it count. And I think it'll count in wins and losses. Now, and it might even be the best way to approach it so that you're not heavy on relying on him again like in years past, where it's like we go as Joel goes. We know we can't really win without him, but this team has had to play without him. Now, we haven't been winning at a high level, but we've been competing. And so now you have a situation where you can use him and not lean on him the same way, because these guys have been forced to go out there and try their best to do it without him there. Now they can kind of use him just to ease the game up for everybody and just get it done efficiently. If this coach is worth his salt and can get them to just buy in to saying, listen, we're not going hero ball. We're not going to go right back to a Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey ISO show. We're just going to continue with ball movement, full integration. Joel has a gravity that's just going to loosen everything up for everybody. Right. Joel, work on
offense. I agree with you.
Guys are moving again, because that's what I'm going to need for you in the playoffs. Your shot making, you don't have to practice that in the game.
Sam, you're on round 1 or round 2. Round 1 or round 2, we're going to either play ball. We're likely to play Boston. I don't know what the Heat or the Pacers, who are ahead of us right now, what their schedule looks like, and if they're likely to drop. If we're going to catch, like, ideally we would be 6. We would play the Cavs, and we would have, I think, a better matchup in the first round. But you're probably looking at a Bucks or a Boston, right? Which means they're going to put him in high pick and roll.
Sixers are 2 back from the 6.
Right. But I don't think Indiana's schedule is hard. I don't recall it off the top of my head. And I don't know I think they had what, 6 games remaining?
Let's see.
But
so
either
plays the Cavs. Oh, they played the Cavs and lost tonight. So wait, no. Okay, so where do I need to start looking from? Okay, April. Okay, here we go. So Indiana has the Nets. The Nets, the Heat. The Heat are incentivized to win because they're right in between us, right? It's Pacers, Heat, Sixers. So they play the Heat, they play the Nets, the Heat, the Cavs, the Thunder, the Raptors, the Hawks.
So they might go 3-3 in that. Let's say they go 3-3 in there. That's realistic, right?
You said they played the Nets twice? Mark, you saying that the Pacers played the Nets twice, or we played the Nets twice? I don't see him in here twice.
But even with that, though, right? So let's say they go 3-3. Are we going to go 5-1?
Right.
We don't have the tiebreaker against the Pacers. So the Pacers would have to completely bottom out for us to get that 6. That's it. Right? So absent that happening, we're likely going to be in the play-in game. We're looking at the play-in, which means either the Bucks or the Celtics, which means Embiid is going to likely be matched up on somebody like Brook Lopez is going to drag him out to the three-point line.
Wait a minute. Let's not. We play Thunder, the Heat. I think we're going to win tomorrow night. We play Thunder. We play the Heat. I think that we get Joel to play both of those games. You play on Tuesday night. And you play on
about the minutes restriction.
Yeah, but it's not a back-to-back. It's
what
just
we're looking at.
Tuesday, Thursday.
I don't know, man.
Play him on Tuesday, play him on Thursday. Again, try the 25 minutes. See how.
All right, go ahead. Let's go ahead. Let's say.
Then you rest him against the Grizzlies on Saturday. They win against the Grizzlies. It is the Grizzlies, and it's a revenge game, right? Then you get Joel back for a Sunday game against Wemby. You know, Joel, you might have to keep him on a minute restriction because he's going to hurt.
Yeah.
That game, you got to hold it back on the leash.
Right.
You know, then we got the Pistons. We have Orlando. Orlando's tricky. They're feisty. And then we end with the Nets. So we have the Nets, Pistons, and the Grizzlies in our stretch. And the Spurs. We're playing the bottom feeders to end the season.
So if that's the case, we still need to win at least 3 more games than the Pacers. The Pacers have to lose. Let's assume we'll win, right? Let's assume we'll win, I don't know, 5-1 or whatever it was, 5-2. Pacers have to lose enough that we actually leap them because we can't tie them because we don't have the tiebreaker.
Yep.
That's the challenge.
And here's why it's going to be kind of cool, because now you have a compelling end of the season. This play-in tournament situation is fantastic. I mean, it's fantastic for 2 reasons. One, seeding alone, I mean, take the play-in out of it. Seeding alone, I think the Sixers have the same incentive to get in the 6 hole so that you're avoiding Boston or Milwaukee in the first round. Right. But the fact that you also have a play-in tournament, it's like, come on, man. It doesn't get any better than that.
All right. So assuming that they don't catch the Pacers, right? Who would you rather match up with in the first round?
Milwaukee.
So I'm asking that question for a very specific purpose because you know there's no physical challenge like Giannis, right? Now, there's no one who Embiid, like Kristaps Porzingis is great, whatever it is, he's not Giannis. Like there's no question like that at all. So you're going to have Embiid 10 games back, whatever he's going to look like. And they're going to have Giannis, and then you're going to have Brook Lopez dragging him out to the 3-point line, and Bobby Portis out there dragging him out to the 3-point line. So he's going to have to move a lot. And if he's not moving, he's going to be physically matched up on Giannis. I agree that the Bucks are a better matchup for us. I agree. But I just know that if we're talking about physical challenges, he is that.
So here's what I think would happen. I don't see a situation where Joel Embiid is guarding Giannis for 3/4 of a game. I don't. I see it for maybe 2 quarters, 1.5. I think that the Brook Lopez situation is a real one in terms of just pulling Joel away from the basket. Yep. It's a pick your poison. You either battle with Giannis or we pull you away from the paint so you're non-factor defensively. Yep. So Nick is going to have to pick his poison there. With that said, because of a Lopez, who is a person who needs to be guarded, there are ways to preserve Joel Embiid. You know, maybe on those possessions, he cannot be the rim protector because you got to give him a spell, and he is guarding someone who can be impactful if he's not defended. So it's not like you're just putting him on a non-player. You're putting him on a player that needs to be defended, but has a very different kind of game that's not going to physically spell him in terms of defensive energy on that side of the floor. So because of that alone, I think you can kind of go back and forth depending on what Joel is giving you or showing you. My biggest concern about the Sixers point blank period is going to be his conditioning. Yeah. When Joel Embiid is tired, he makes tired decisions, and that all players are culpable of that. But Joel Embiid is something that I've always seen it from him in a way that it goes up to me exponentially in the playoffs. It's like I won't say he shrinks. I just think when he's physically tired, it's like his brain just turns off, and
Yo,
he
he's
just
like literally
plays.
becomes a moat. He becomes a wet blanket.
Yeah. Now, see, that's something different. That's something different, and I'm hoping that he's graduated from that because I know that with PJ Tucker, whatever value you think PJ Tucker offered this team, I know that he did challenge Joel Embiid in terms of his whole demeanor and his disposition when things aren't going well. I, that's why there are sometimes I still believe that we still might need a guy to get over the top because there are things about Joel Embiid's demeanor that kind of this up and down that the team to me can't work around, right? Like if Joel Embiid, when he's that wet blanket, it's hard for the team to be motivated and be like Maxi,
So I'm
fire
gonna
guy.
push back. I'm gonna push back. I actually think this is the first season that in the process era where he is the biggest question mark, not the cast. Not like a Ben Simmons. Not like did you have enough shooting? Not did you have enough wing defenders? Not did you have a coach in Brett Brown or Doc Rivers who's going to get it done? Kyle Lowry has been a revelation. Kelly Oubre is about to get paid all of the money. You know what I mean? All the money. And then like Nick Batum, I've never seen a dude who catches and shoots in the same motion like that high. And these guys are deep. And if you drop Embiid and he's able to give you 80% of what he was doing early, and I know that's a lot. But 80% of what he was doing earlier in the year, this is the best Sixers team if you get that.
Then we're saying the same thing because 80% is 25 minutes.
Well, no, 80% of his performance, not in terms of length of time on the floor. That's it.
If you gave me 100% of your performance for 25 minutes of the game, there's 80% of your performance.
I just want to be able to see him go out. The part that where we slightly disagree, were you saying that his injury or his conditioning, he makes poor decisions because he's tired. I think that's a mindset thing. I think part of it has been, it may absolutely be in conditioning, but I think that he has taken into the postseason the fact that he's been frustrated by injuries, often frustrated by injuries, and those like the knee ailments or the eye or whatever is going on with him, the stomach bug. Like a grown man keeps getting stomach flu. What is going on, yo? Like all of those things.
And Sharp on the first take this morning said, he said his stomach is worse than the infant, worse than the baby.
Yeah, he's not wrong. Like
he went in on me, man.
Listen, I'm telling you, but all that said, I think when he gets frustrated, it's partially conditioned, but I also think it's the fact I just want one postseason healthy. Ironically, this may be the healthiest he's ever been into a postseason. He just may not be conditioned for it.
That's my point.
Yeah.
That's the whole point that I'm making is that my concern going into this postseason is his conditioning.
Yeah.
A tired Embiid is a sloppy Embiid.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I've seen it before. And because he missed the second half of the season, I'm concerned about his conditioning going into the postseason. Because it doesn't matter what he wants to do. When he's physically not capable, he does less. His decisions are less. Like it's all connected. And so that's a real so I just don't know. But
I asked you at the beginning of this, who would you rather match up? And we both agree that the Bucks are the matchup. I think kind of implicit in that is I'd rather the Heat go play Boston.
That would be great.
Let them go figure that out.
I feel like the Heat want Boston. The Heat want whoever. The Heat, they just want in the dance. That's it.
Let them go figure that out.
They need to have the mentality of the Heat. Just let us in. Let everybody look out for us. And I feel like we could be that team on the sneak. Like when we beat the Heat, like to your point, this team has those vets now. It has those guys now, guys that have been there, going through all the fires, championships. You know what I'm saying? You got Kyle at the point, who's a champion. Batum, who's seasoned. You know what I mean? Like you got these guys who've been around the block. They have their own motivations, and it's connected to the team's aspirations. So they're going for it. They're not going to be intimidated. Here's the best part about the Sixers roster is that on the road, you can expect production from your bench.
Yeah.
It's not the kind of group that shies on the road and you can only get them to perform at home. These guys can play anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
we're not even talking about
this year, that live team.
We're not even talking about I don't know if we've heard anything about Melton.
Right. Or Covington.
Yeah. But I mean, you're going to shrink the rotation anyway, so you're going to get down to like 8 guys at most. I think Mobamba's going to be your backup. So you have Embiid and then Tobias, Oubre, Batum, Lowry, Maxey, Payne, and then who's my next? Is it Bamba? Not Bamba. Yeah, is it Bamba?
It's probably Bamba, but I still think you'll get it. It might be Bamba. It might. It might. And here's why I think it might be B-ball Paul. Because coach seems to play groups together. And B-ball Paul has always played with that second unit. Those guys play together.
Well, I missed Healed too. I'm sorry. I missed Healed also.
Right, and Healed, right. So it's like, so that's why I think you could make an argument that he looks at his team and says, you know what? Even though you used to be my first off the bench behind Joel, it makes more sense to keep you with the group that you play with because that's the group that you're going to be playing with. And Mo Bamba now steps into the role like he was the guy to replace Joel Embiid if Joel Embiid went down.
Yeah.
I think Paul was always the backup center.
Yeah.
He just stays in his position. So Mo Bamba might be the guy out depending on the matchup. He might be the guy that you see if he needs a shooter or a stretch 5 in a certain situation. But it really might be B-ball Paul because he's the backup center.
Well,
and if you get Joel Embiid, you go back to your backup center.
I think even with all of that said, I think you got 6 or 7 games or whatever remaining. I think there was a conscious decision between the Sixers actually starting to show photos of dude practicing. You know what I'm saying? There's clips of that guy now putting in the work. There's reports coming out. I think that he is further along, and I think we're going to see it. I don't think we're going to have a heavy restriction. He probably won't do back-to-backs, nothing like that. If we've got any remaining in the playoffs, that'll be a little bit tougher to manage. But with them promoting it, with the number of games remaining, I think they have a high level of confidence in his physical competency right now. So they're going to go out and they're going to test this dude. And I think the Sixers look at this and say, like, we actually think we got a team to go out there because, quite honestly, if they get out the East, I think Sixers match up well with Denver, right? Because they're going to make Jokic guard. I think SGA is a beast in Oklahoma City, but I think Oklahoma City is young. And then, who knows what's going to happen with Minnesota? Them getting that deep, Anthony Edwards is a star, no question. But I don't know that the rest of his team with, Cat being injured, Rudy Gobert getting dominated the way he's been dominated by Embiid. I like Sixers get out of the East and the Sixers get out of the first round because that's going to be Boston or Milwaukee. The whole conversation changes. The entire conversation changes.
Right.
And if not, we got a lot to look forward to in the postseason. We'll see what it is.
Right. Let me ask you. So Mark put it before he bounced. He asked about the Knicks. I like. Well, we don't know who the Knicks will be in the playoffs. I would have been interested to see what a healthy Knicks team looked like with Anunoby and Julius Randle available. But without those guys and them never playing together, I just don't know what the Knicks truly are. So who knows what they do in the playoffs this year? A healthy team. I mean, I think a healthy team. I'll put the Knicks in the same category as the Sixers in the Heat.
Well, so I like a lot of the Knicks pieces, but I think Jalen Brunson's going to have a hard time. I think he's an incredible player. I love the fact that he uses his body in a way to get to spots, and he remains at his own tempo, so he's not changed by anybody else. However, I think when you have a series in which you've got guards with size, they're going to put somebody like Oubre on him and figure that out for 7 games if we were to run into the Knicks. That's what they're going to do. They're not going to put a Maxey or Heel.
Gotcha. You're talking about our matchup against the Knicks.
Yeah, and I think any other team in the postseason is probably going to look at it the same way. You are going to say the Knicks don't really have a guy, whether it be Anunoby, whether it be Randall if he's healthy, who can initiate offense outside of Jalen Brunson, right? Who can put the ball on the floor or create once the ball is taken out of his hands or if he's limited. And I think you're going to have guys who are just going to be like, you're going to see Jaylen Brown if it's the Knicks and Celtics. You're going to see bigger guards on him to make it more difficult for him to just do what he's been doing so well. He's probably an all-NBA player. No question about it. I think he's a top 6 guard probably in the league this year. But I think when you've got game planning for a best of 7 series, you're going to have a really hard time navigating length for the entire time.
I hear that. And I know he's going to be up for the challenge. That much I know.
I'm a huge fan of his.
Brunson is extremely crafty. He makes you pay when he understands what you're trying to do. I just think he's just he's almost like Bernard Hopkins. Like he is the classic counterpuncher.
Yeah.
You know, like he doesn't need to be fast and quick. He just needs you to make a move first. You know, at the end of the day, he understands physics to know how to counter what you're doing. If you're there, you can't also be here. You know, and the way he just, plays off of your subtle movements, it's just like I think he'll still figure out ways to take advantage. He torches the Sixers when we play him. So, whatever we're holding, up our sleeve, I'm glad we're holding it for the playoffs because we haven't slowed him down yet. You know, I think we won one game against the Knicks, and other games the Knicks have won handedly. You know, so I don't think the Sixers have a great matchup against the Knicks. To be honest, it's one of the teams that I'm more concerned about in the playoffs. Even with the healthy Joel Embiid, I'm less concerned with the healthy Joel Embiid. But I'd rather see the Pacers. I'd rather see Orlando. I'd rather see
the Cavs.
The Cavs, like all the Heat and Cavs, I'd rather see before the Knicks. Something about the Knicks with this team, they need Joel. I think when we play the Knicks, if we were to play the Knicks, they need Joel Embiid to be the guy who is the leader on the court. He can't just be a guy in those games against the Knicks. He has to be a guy that when our guys start to look around at each other, they can find his eyes and stand tall again and like, all right, we got this. Without him being that guy in that kind of series, I don't think we beat the Knicks. Like, I think we could beat the Cavs with Joel Embiid playing well, but not being like, we got to lean on Joel Embiid to beat the Cavs. I don't think we have to. I think we can beat the Cavs with Joel Embiid being more than serviceable.
Yeah.
You know, Orlando, same. The Heat, I want to see the battle against the Heat. I like that. Their rookie dude, we don't really have an answer for him. Jaquez or whatever.
Jaquez, yeah.
He's his size, that's what I love about the playoffs. It's all about the real matchups that get exploited in the series and just figure out how teams adjust to it.
The Sixers can run out if you want to go with length, right? Your five could be Maxi's obviously not a big guard, but you just go Maxi, Oubre, Batum, Harris, and Embiid, right? So that's size, that's length. You have guys who can initiate the ball, the floor. Tobias, when he decides to do it, he can do it. Oubre puts his head down, gets to the basket. And then, hopefully we're going to see some of the slow passing and cutting with the rhythm that we've seen with Oubre and Batum on the floor more recently, right? So you've got that as an option there. I don't know that you'll play Oubre when you've got Lowry and what he brings to the team in terms of shooting and leadership, his willingness to take a charge. So I think the Sixers have some flexibility depending on who they're going to run into. I think you're going to need that length and size against someone like a Boston with Tatum and Brown and Derek White and Jrue Holiday. You'll probably, if you saw a healthy Knicks, you probably would need it there too, because you're going to see Anunoby, but he's not healthy. You're going to see Randall. He's not been healthy for a while. So I like the Sixers' versatility to play up or down. It's just going to be a question of who's really going to be able to perform in the moment. That's it. Do you trust Oubre? Or would you want Lowry's leadership, right? Do you think Tobias is going to get a rhythm and he's going to contribute on the glass? Is he going to be a spot-up shooter or willing catching three guy? What's he going to look like? Who knows? That's what Nurse gets paid to do.
Yeah. And I think he's going to be up to the challenge.
So we'll see. I'm excited for it, though, regardless. Tuesday night's going to be crazy.
It's a national, I think it's a ES or a TNT game, which makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's national. It's definitely TNT, ESPN, regardless.
And we started this show with the NCAA Tournament.
Yes.
So why don't we go here? Baseball's back. We didn't touch this.
No, and neither did the Phillies. We did not touch it. Yeah, you know what? Like this is the thing about those dudes, right? Is that like the city loves the Phillies. I hear everybody talk about the Eagles town, but there is a certain enthusiasm and excitement around the Phillies every single time the season starts. and every single time the postseason hits. It's like no other place on earth.
Especially now. Because now, here's the thing. The Phillies are literally the darlings of the city. If there are darlings of Philadelphia, it is your Philadelphia Phillies because it's a bunch of dudes who wanted to play here, and they gave us a show. That's all we asked for, and even though they fell short of winning it all, they still showed that they are the team to be, if that makes any sense, right? Like there's something about what Philadelphia offered in this postseason that was just different than every other team. And it almost seems like if you can give us that every year, we're content. I don't want to say that we don't want to win it all because I know we do. But if we keep getting these postseasons like this, like, are we really going to look back at this era like, oh man, we never?
No, I'm about to stroke out. Yes. Listen, I can't listen. I love the Phillies. My wife loves the Phillies. My kids love. I mean, I told you what we did here at my son's school, right? I told you about that. Did I tell you this?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Like
yes.
we are petty on a whole other level with these cats down here. Like we rock these dudes hard. The problem with it is that for the last 2 years, you build up expectations at a 10, right? Whether or not they were ready to win, you get to the World Series, you get to basically one inning of the World Series going back there against the Rangers, and you blow a 2-game lead or whatever it is, or 1-game lead coming back home, right? Yeah. And so it's like, all right, look, we're ready to go. We're gonna break through this time. We're not gonna take any prisoners. We just out here killing dudes. And then you drop 1 or 2 to the Braves, fine. You come back and lose, and you have Bryce Harper hasn't had a hit yet, bro. Like we've got to get to a point where it's like I want to show and prove and be the front runner because now we got our actual ownership. This is making me mad. Now we got an actual ownership that will spend money. Like I remember a day when like I used to go to Burger King and get like a number 2 and 4 tickets. Like that's where we were. We got a dude now who actually go out and sell and sell minor league guys or get free agents in here. Like this is not going to be the team, but these guys need to act like they are the team right now rather than waiting until September. That's the enthusiasm they really can seize on.
Here's where I agree with you, but also feel like the season is extremely long. And baseball is one of those weird sports where you just need them to get hot at the right time. And does it have to be the beginning of the season? It doesn't hurt to jump out with the lead. But how many times have we seen seasons play out where the teams that get hot at the end, they get in. And once they get in, they shake everything up. It's like they're all the Miami Heat of the playoffs.
Right.
Like baseball is that weird sport where you don't have a Boston Celtics generally, like that Miami Heat scenario is a real factor because teams just get hot, right? So
you know what it is though? I don't want to interrupt you. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Finish it.
No, the last thing I'll say is this. And this is, you know what? This will be part of what I'm processing. And so I'm glad that I get to touch on it now. I'm convinced that the journey is the destination. The journey is the destination. There have been so many different scenarios in my life that I'm thinking of where I was my ideas of some, before I even get into all of that, I'll just say, thinking of that concept, when we think about this team and this era of this team, if we're holding out our full fulfillment of enthusiasm around this team for the one goal of getting a championship, then you miss the journey that has been this team.
Yeah.
It's been a really cool experience. Think of what baseball has been like in Philadelphia. This team has changed what baseball is like here, and we haven't won a title.
There's no question.
It's hard for me to look at this and say, oh, this is all this would. There's no value in this experience because it never culminated in a championship.
No, I don't want to suggest that I don't appreciate it, that I don't love it, that I'm not excited. I am. The thing is, and maybe this is the woe is me or every day is gray or whatever it is, but you remember how when we were younger and it was Tampa Bay Buccaneers will never win a game under 40 degrees.
Yeah.
How many times are we going to hold on to something like that? How many times are we going to hold on to 40 degrees? Because the Phillies are going to keep getting into the postseason, and they likely will. And they're going to be the wild card team, and we're going to bank on being hot. And then it's going to take one error, one bad inning, and all of the belief that we had stored up, right, is going to be completely gone. And everything that we have been hoping and building towards will have been lost. Not that I want to enjoy April, not that I want to enjoy May and all the subsequent months after that. I just want to see them be who I believe they are. I'm not talking about winning. Go out there and like people are selling, grandmas are out here selling pies. People are out here baking goods. Like, yo, go out there and seize on that enthusiasm. That's all I'm saying. And to come out here, fine. You know what? 1 of 2 to the Braves. They won in exciting fashion yesterday. But to get rolled by the Reds tonight, like,
but then we get rolled. Didn't we get rolled in extras tonight?
Got rolled in extras, but you jumped out to 2-0 lead. You don't have another hit for innings. Christopher Sanchez pitches well, and then some bull comes up and smashes a ball into like West Philly, and that's it. That's the game. So I don't know. I'm not saying that I don't appreciate what they've done. The experience has been incredible. There's no question. I'm ride or die with them regardless. My kids love it. We wake up and watch highlights, or we stay up late and watch the game, whatever the case is going to be. But I just would love to see them be who I believe that they are, who I think we think they are.
Which are champions.
Which can be champions. Yeah.
So that's who we think they are, right? Let me ask you something. Who do the Eagles think they have, right? Because I mean, has there ever been a scenario where teams essentially trade the same player to each other? It's like give me your defensive end who has double-digit sacks for my defensive end with double-digit sacks. I mean, aren't which team's trying to get better? Is it addition by subtraction, or is it just a net move? I don't know.
I don't think you could be better. I don't think you could be better with losing Hassan Reddick. I mean, so we like fundamentally, right? We have to believe that Jeff Stoutland is a good offensive line coach.
The other thought is, could you then say that as the Jets?
Can
you say that as the Jets?
That they are now better?
The same question.
Well, losing Bryce Huff, they're better with Hassan Reddick. I have to believe that when you've got a guy who's got the resume, Bryce Huff may be ascending, but Reddick is a resume, right? And so, Huff had, I think, double digits just this past year. Reddick has had him like 3 of the last 4 years, or something like that. He definitely had him both years with the Eagles. He may have had it before he joined us too. So,
and Hassan Reddick is on the field every down. And that's the thing about Huff. Huff has been sort of like a part-time player a bit. And that's why his numbers are phenomenal based off of the percentage of snaps he gets, which means that we're going to be relying on him to play more snaps than he usually does as well.
Well, I'll tell you what you should rely on right now is the Eagles are going to draft a defensive end. There's no question about that. So they're either going to move into a more 3-4 base where you're going to see guys like Milton Williams or Jalen Carter playing on the end because they don't have a lot right now. You got Josh Sweat, who is basically like left on the curb and nobody picked up, right? Who's back. You've got now Huff, and then you've got Brandon Graham, God bless him, but he's not the same dude. So who are your ends? Because if you have one injury, now all of a sudden you're relying on Brandon Graham or Bryce Huff, who hasn't played a number of snaps.
Does Nolan Smith, does he fit a 3-4 better?
Well, that's the point that's where I was going, right? So now you're looking at him and thinking, okay, it's the same thing with the offensive line. Are you better? You've got a guy, Cam Jurgens, who is groomed to replace the same profile as Kelsey.
Right.
Is he likely as better or as good? No. Right. I mean, just on the merits. He's not a Hall of Famer. He's not a first team All-Pro. Nolan Smith may get there. Cam Jurgens may get there. But like today, we're not better. We're just not. Not yet, at least. We may get there. But Nolan.
I don't disagree. I guess my question simply to you was, do you believe the Eagles, in changing over to a 3-4 defense, believe that Nolan Smith is a guy that they should be able to rely on more this year because the scheme is just better fit for who he is as a player.
I think they're going to have to rely on him. I don't think there's a question about better fit. I think they're going to have to rely on him. I think the decision was made to move Redick probably in part because of the cap number. Yep. Even though the Eagles have a boatload of money, I think they probably are looking. I'm hoping they're looking to re-sign Devontae Smith, but they've got to be saying, "Yo, we've got to find some way to get these young guys in the field, right? Some of the other like Braun or whatever it was, and Nakobe Dean who's off injured, and now Nolan Smith. Some of these guys have got to play the same way we're relying on guys in the secondary, Ricks and Ringo and Rogers. The linebackers are going to be in the same position, right? You're going to have to play. Like the training wheels are going to have to come off, and we're going to rely on you. We spent money on the offense. We're going to have youth on the defense.
Yeah, and some vet linebackers, to help, at least call control and be the quarterback on defense.
Yeah,
give you some leadership there in your front seven. And hopefully we can apply more pressure so the back end, doesn't have to stick to their guy as long. Again, I just didn't understand what we were even trying to do defensively last year in the secondary. I couldn't understand the calls. I couldn't understand down and distance, the coverages. None of it made sense to my eyes. And, they would constantly call it out, throughout the game in terms of how we're just conceding third downs, time and time again. So I'm thinking if you have more of a attack style defense, knowing you have youth on the outside, the hope is you get home more regularly.
Yeah.
Or you just create more havoc in the backfield so that, the quarterback is taking more chances. And maybe that's how you save those guys a bit. And then, of course, you also got CJG, so you also have a vet back there who can help, guide them a little bit. But, game real time, it's live, fast speed. We are asking those guys to step up and be those 5-star recruits they were in high school, that they were in college. Well, it's time for you to be that in the pros because you got to cover some guys.
Further, Sam, we're asking a lot of new parts, a lot of young players and new parts to play together, to come together in what we hope to be, a championship run? What are the realistic expectations? When you trade a guy who was a double-digit sack guy, do you expect to contend? Like, is that the message you're sending?
That's a great question.
Like, what's the message when you trade a dude who
because I want to say the answer is yes, because you brought in Huff first. So you brought in a double-digit sack guy first before you made the move with Hassan Reddick and after you re-signed Sweat. Now, granted, we know who Sweat is, but if you're signaling to the team, it's like, okay, they Sweat was, I think, number 2 on the team last year in sacks. So it's like, okay, in that moment, you had all 3 guys. Now they made a move for Reddick. And number 2 or number 3, depending on what he does next year. I think that's pretty good compensation for Hassan Reddick. Now, I don't disagree with you that they must have felt that they were in a hard spot in terms of how to move forward with him.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if that means to me that they are conceding this season. I just think that they had to concede that player, and they're going to figure out a creative way. It's almost like Moneyball. How do we make up the runs and hits? How do we get on base?
That's all fair. But I think the question that lingers with me is, do we believe that the Eagles can contend with, I think they're better on offense, at least at the skill positions with Barkley, right? I think Devontae, we were a wash at the third receiver, so we'll be at least equal there or better. Assume Jalen Hurts gets back to a more competent level of play with Kellen Moore, so the offense will probably be better. But you don't know what you're getting from Bradbury. You don't know what you're getting from Slay. They like Blankenship. They just extended him a year. They brought in CJG, so the back ends, at least the safeties are probably better.
So the back end's better.
But you're still relying on Bradbury right now until we see him supplanted. You're still relying on Slay if you think he's going to tackle.
So if they brought in CJG and all things are the same, the back end is better. The linebacker core is much better than it was last year. And then he brought in potentially a much younger version of Hassan Reddick.
I don't know. I'm looking at Nolan Smith uncertainty. I'm looking at Jordan Davis year 3 of uncertainty, right? Jalen Carter was a beast the first like 6-7 games, and
I
then
give these. I'm sorry. Continue. Continue. Malik. Uh-oh. So you're froze on my end. Hopefully. All right. So here was my argument. Was simply this: if you have, if you've improved your defense on your linebacking core, and the Eagles have not even invested money in that position in years, you're changing your defensive principles. Hopefully, that puts guys in a better position to get after it. I don't know what the Eagles were doing defensively last year, but what was very evident to me is that it seemed to ill fit the players. This year doesn't seem to be, it seems that they're trying to design a defense to maximize what they have on their roster. And if that happens, I think we will then get a better product on defense next year. So that's my whole position there. It is tough losing Hassan Reddick because I think that he was a guy who really resonated with everyone here, especially coming out of Temple University. And to get it done at that level, playing in your city, being from Camden, that was special. Um, and even DeAndre Swift, having both those guys on the team was special. And Zacchaeus, I think that all of that is a pretty good feeling. So, I wish him good luck and wish him well. Oh, there we go. There we go.
sorry about that.
It's all right. Here we go. No, I was just saying how I think that the Eagles are looking at what they have and they're going to try to design a defense that best fits their actual personnel. And so I think they're going to move to the 3-4. I think they saw the tail off that you're alluding to from Jalen Carter. I think that they agree that, hey, we thought Jordan Davis was going to be a lot more disruptive than he ended up
Yeah.
being. I just think that there was something about the play calling that just did not work with what the guys were trying to do. And
Yeah.
I think you need a better mind behind that because these guys are still studs, man. There's still something there. So
There's
yep,
opportunity. There's definitely opportunity. And I think that having an environment where you've got what I have to believe is more sound coaching should help them grow.
yep,
So we're gonna rely on them. I mean, you're gonna have to hit on some picks. Again,
yep,
remember way back in the day when we first started, I talked to you about, it was like, who is how we drafted on the defensive side that has actually been, fulfilled their potential, or at least started to realize it. We're going to see that now. We're going to see it. You're going to have hit on a N'Kobe Dean or Nolan Smith or Jalen Carter or Jordan Davis. Shoot,
I,
the safety
very
that
much
was injured at
right.
the end of the safety that was injured at the end of last year. I can't Brown, Sidney
Sidney
Brown.
Brown.
Yeah, you're going to have to see that. You're going to have to see it from someone. Hopefully, there's going to be 2 or 3 guys who emerge.
Yeah. Well, with that, I want to jump into again. I'll just start since I kind of already opened up a little
Sure,
bit
yeah.
to it. But what am I processing? So again, the journey is the destination. It's a phrase that really stuck in my craw recently when I was considering. I was just looking at a lot of things that happened in my life, and I know in the moment it had to do with my relationship with my wife and certain milestones that we achieved, but also even in recognizing the milestone, the immediate thought was reminiscing of that the passage to the milestone, right? Like the journey, the actual where we started to where we are. It
Yeah.
wasn't this point in time that was so magnificent to me. It was like, wow, there are X amount of years. Let's think about those years, and like that's what makes it meaningful. And so then I started thinking about all these other things that I aspire to achieve. And I'm realizing that it's not me getting to that point that really gives me the yes, there are moments where I feel the gratification. Weight training. I mean, you could break it down to anything, right? When you get to a new max, right? Lifting a certain weight and you're able to increase it. You feel good about it when you hit a new
Yeah.
high or a new level. But part of the reason you feel good is because you know you are physically stronger. because all of the other weights underneath it still count. That's why you feel the way you feel about this number, is because these numbers you have under your belt. You were there. You didn't miss any of that. And so it's all part of the mindset. You actually just got here, but this is where you earned your medal. And I think for me, I'm there were a few things in my life that I was so focused on the end goal that I was willing to sacrifice the journey. And I'm thankful that I caught myself to say, wait a minute, this isn't it. Because it matters how I get here.
Mm.
Because it's not about the point in time, it's about who I become on the way there.
Yeah.
So it's the journey, not the destination. The destination is something, it's just like a view, or direction that you're moving in. But the reason that people look at people who have achieved a lot of success in life and sort of have a framework about them isn't simply because of the titles they hold. It's because of what they've been able to overcome.
Yeah.
That's the reason that they're willing to pay them to listen or to hear or consult with them, is because they know that they've met the rubber meets the road moments. They can speak through those experiences. It's not just theoretical. It's someone who has lived and experienced and understands really what it takes because they've gone through it. And they're giving a perspective of what they've gone through and experienced. And that's part of why we hold some of these people in esteem. That's why we don't hold those who receive something for nothing, right? Like lottery winners, we look at like, oh, we don't have the same kind of value that we hold with them
Yeah.
as for someone who earned and made money and created their wealth out of an idea and discipline, right? So I think with that same idea in mind, I'm going to be way more conscious about taking time every day to take in the journey of each
Mm.
day with my children, each day with my wife, each day with my family, my father, taking it all in, soaking it in, taking pictures, taking quick videos, just like breaking it down and being in each moment as much as possible. Because when you're in the moment, the other stuff that clutters your mind, you don't have space for that too. You don't have space for both. So it's like you can choose to be in the moment, and the things that you are thinking about, you can table, or you can just keep having that computer running in the back of your mind as you're present for things, but you're not present.
Yeah.
And I want to be present. I want to be present. I feel like I'm capable to deal with that at an appropriate time, but let me be more present. So,
I will admit that I struggle with a lot of what you just described, and I think it's time. First of all, I'm terrible as a Philadelphia sports fan, but that's not even beside the point. Um, I work remotely, and I travel some. I travel as necessary. I'm actually traveling tomorrow, um, but it is so hard to. While you would think, oh, you're remote, so you have the ability to kind of manage your day as necessary. But if you are busy, your day almost bleeds together. So there's no real distinction between working from home, working from when your kids are here, working when you should be settling down at night, or just getting up, dropping them and going to school, and then going right back to your laptop. It all just kind of bleeds into one. And so a lot of the feeling that I've had over the past week has been about some stresses from work. And I know that I have made very deliberate steps to try and focus on what I'm doing, not because I was trying to pay so much close attention to what was happening at home or in a personal space, but because I knew that if I didn't make that effort, I would still be consumed by the thoughts of the things that were stressing me at work, pulling me away from my day to day or pulling me away from the journey. Right. So I acknowledge the importance of it. I think about it, and it's something that I know that I need to be very deliberate, because otherwise you look up and you're like, oh my God, it's Saturday. What did I do all week? Or, oh my gosh, it's already 5 o'clock. How did I spend my day? Or, oh my goodness, my kids are like driving off with friends of theirs. I was just watching a movie with them.
mm,
All of those things happen. So no, I think it's a sound statement, and I agree with you. And I share that same challenge.
excuse me.
So
Thank you. Yeah. So, just something I just wanted to put it out there to the world, man. Just consider it. Don't let life pass you by, because life is the journey. That's what counts. It's how you get anywhere. Because again, you can sell yourself short by cutting corners, by like trying to take shortcuts. Shortcuts never lead to good things. There's a reason we even think about, turtles. Is it turtles? That like you think about birds that have to break their shell when they're hatching, and they have to do it on their own because it's part of them developing the strength they'll need to live. And if they get help in that process, they'll be underdeveloped.
Mm.
Like, and handicap them for life in the sense of they will never fully develop the muscles needed because in that pivotal moment, someone intervened. They
Oh
need
man.
to work it out. And I think for us, we can't look for intervention. There's things when things get hard, it doesn't mean something's wrong. We have to understand why we require that hard things to
Yo,
work through.
there's a whole lot of soft beak MFers out there, yo. Let me tell
Tell
you.
you, man, we gotta enjoy the process. We gotta enjoy the work. It's part
Yeah.
of it. Once you tap into what it offers you as a person, you'll get it, and you won't keep looking all the way down there for when you'll be that person. You can be that person today.
You know what's crazy? Because what you kind of said some themes that actually tie into mine, right? Like the looking down there, the selling, right? Part of the life. And mine is not nearly as profound, but it's something that has absolutely irritated me over the last week or so. We don't need to talk about the details of it because it's been everywhere, and I'm sure you already had 15 conversations about it. The fact that my man Diddy, or your boy Diddy, absolutely is going to jail. It's just a question of when, not if, at this point in time. If they raid your home in Florida, in California, in New York simultaneously, they got more than reasonable suspicion that you did something wrong, right? Or that you have the evidence of something wrong at your place. That said, while all that is going on, again, lifestyle, looking over there, the destination, right? People paying attention. My man Trump celebrated Easter. I was trying to find you, Sam, even though I know who your family is. I was trying to find you one of those God bless the USA Bibles, dog. I was going to pay the $60 plus $45 in shipping or whatever and send it to you. You ain't see this?
No.
Trump is selling, and this is not my statement is not about Trump, but it's about where I will get to where I'm going, but it's evidence of it. He is so a couple weeks ago he was selling sneakers, right? All right. He was definitely selling sneakers. Now he's selling God Bless the USA Bibles, right? And I'm calling it that. It's like I think it's the King James version, but it's God Bless the USA Bibles. And essentially what it is, you include like the country's founding documents, the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, in there with the Old and the New Testament, right? In the good old King James. So we got Ben Franklin and his lyrics and his words on pen and paper. We got King James in there too, right? Everybody from Philemon to Titus. We got Mark and all of the other apostles up in that thing, right? Look, so he's selling that Bible. The part that just struck me at some point while watching the incestuous Puffy coverage and all the Trump stuff is these dudes ain't selling anything real. Nobody is selling anything real. I don't understand why on literally, because it just became at one point in time, like, let me just see who else is talking about this. It was on Fox, it was on MSNBC, it was on CNN, it was on whatever social media sites you wanted to look at. It was on every single podcast topic, talking about the fact that this dude, Puff, was being, investigated for all of these, illicit crimes and activities, so on and so forth. Nothing charged, but investigated, right? All alleged. Then, same thing with Trump. Trump is not, there is no, I wouldn't let Trump bless my turkey and cheese, dog. Like, so now you got a Bible? Okay. So what that is telling me is that the amount of attention paid to these people is not a product of what they do, but is what they make you believe, right? I used to be a huge fan of like No Way Out and the Benjamins and Bad Boy for Life and all of that stuff in the early 90s, late 90s, early 2000s. Sam, Puff hasn't had, what was the last song Puff had? Exactly, right?
That's a great question.
Trump had The Apprentice, but before that, he had a bunch of rundown casinos that I'm sure you and I have spent time at some point. in Atlantic City, right?
See?
That dude was not doing anything that was worthwhile, but they create the impression that it is a life or something about me that you need to, glom onto or believe in or aspire to. And they are absolutely hollow and charlatans. That's not to suggest they don't have talent. I understand it's the president. I respect the fact that he was the president. I respect the fact that Diddy did Sean John and Bad Boy and so on and so forth. But a lot of what we're talking about now is just the simple belief that these individuals either can portray a lifestyle that for whatever reason influences, grabs, and moves the culture in a way that is completely hollow and ignores everything that you were talking about in terms of the actual journey being the destination.
Brother, listen, you are spot on, in my opinion, in terms of your account of that it is like this fickle, it's like the house, it's literally the house of cards. Literally the house of cards. If you blow on it, the whole thing comes down. But here's what's interesting about what may come out of this in terms of no charges against Diddy to date,
Right.
even though both homes have been raided.
Right.
My wife is the one who shared this with me, and for some reason, it didn't even just strike me as obvious as it should have been. She said when she heard about what that guy said was in his house, he said they went there to grab the tapes.
Yeah.
They said, what? They got tapes of who in there? He said they showed up with ladders. They knew exactly where they were going. They went there to get those tapes. You got them of who? From where? In that house? Implicating who? No. We'll get Homeland Security. I don't jurisdiction.
Yeah.
We'll get the people we don't have to ask the questions. Just go in those homes, get the tapes. It was weird. For that kind of hoopla and no charges, when do we ever see something like that?
Listen, I have to believe, and it's not even really trying to be in charge. He'll get charged. He'll there were no charges. I have to believe that he will be charged at some point in time. But that's not even like, why do I care? Why do we care?
We don't, but they think we do. That's
the
thing.
But it's evidenced by the amount of impressions and clicks and attention. And he has been honored on whatever awards show recently, right? Whether it been the Grammys, whether it be BET, whatever it is. He's been a spokesperson from everything from music to fashion to political campaigns with Vote or Die. He was running in America, like all of these things for years. But in some way, he's grabbed attention the same way that Trump has, right? And it's not about whether I believe in him politically. I'm not even talking about that. The notion that this dude, the same way that Diddy, makes you believe that he is something, right? But where is the actual fruit of your labor? Where is the actual product? Because there's no part of me that believes Trump's a real Christian, but somebody does. Enough people do. That he is the conservative candidate, that he is going to come back here and he's going to promote Jesus Christ, and Diddy's going to be cultural ambassador. He sold vodka, for God's sakes. How does that make him relate to me? Right? But for whatever reason, there's a notion that's attached that he moves the culture, he gets eyes, and they absolutely drive and garner attention, meritless or not. So my whole point is that I looked at this over the last week with the amount of attention that was paid during Trump selling Bibles during Holy Week, Diddy out here getting raided and his kids getting detained, not arrested. Looking at all of that, I'm thinking to myself, why are we paying attention to this? Why do they have the kind of chokehold that they do on community and media and influence in our respective neighborhoods? And I just think it's complete. We are so far afield from actually being grounded in anything real and actually observing what you're talking about. Destination. I'm sorry, the journey, not the destination. Excuse me.
Journey. The journey is the destination. I'm telling you, because also while all this is happening, then all of a sudden you have the bridge situation in Baltimore. I don't know if you've heard.
The
Francis Scott Key Bridge collapse. Where the barge, and what's really weird about that video, there's a video that's circulating where the footage is sped up 8 times, and you watch the turn of the barge, and then it goes black. So it's floating in the river, and then it makes like a very sharp turn, and then it loses power allegedly, and where it goes right into the bridge, and that's on the tail end of that movie that was produced by the Obamas.
Mm.
You've seen that one on Netflix.
No, I know what you're talking about. I haven't seen it, but I've heard about
Watch it. Watch it, because it talks about failing communication in vessels.
it. Mm.
So I'm just saying, like, it was a very strange thing to happen. And while this is happening, we're all talking about this nonsense and homes being raided and what's on the tapes. Like, anybody cares about any of those people and what they're doing, but they're trying to convince you that stuff's really important. To your point,
Yeah.
I'm saying spend more time with your family. That's what's important. Turn the TV off.
What's wild, you know what? Not to we talk about the bridge. I thought about that, and I wanted to avoid like talking about. I've gotten on the race campaign a couple times, soapbox on my DEI stuff, but there was a lot of conversation around that bridge, and not to belabor the point or add anything to this, about DEI hires, right? Like that some way, form, or fashion, this happened because any of the individuals were quote unquote DEI hires. If you wrote that, or if you believe that to be true, please do me a favor and walk right into that same body of water. Like that is literally where your greatest contribution can be found, at the bottom of that bay. Like that's where we are. Like that's it. That's it. Because the persons who were on that boat, the people who were on that bridge, what they did to try to save lives, and in immediacy of that moment, I don't think has anything to do with the fact that anybody is of a particular race, color, creed, or religion. Nothing. These folks were doing everything they could, multiple power outages, mayday call, trying to get people kind of aware so they can begin to evacuate as quickly as possible. It did save lives. And no one ever is able to account for the fact that a barge goes into a bridge in the middle of the night. Come on. So, anyway, not to be on a tangent, I was talking about Diddy and Trump. I'm still gonna get your Bible as soon as it's out of back order, and I'll make sure that you guys get a copy of that as soon as possible.
I need the shoes too.
Got you on that, no question.
Need the shoes too.
I'll put them on layaway for you.
There we go. Well, folks, that's going to be our show tonight. I think you can't. I mean, once you book the we call it the God Bless America version. What version?
I don't want to misquote it. I think it is the God Bless the USA Bible. I think that is it.
I don't know how I missed it, but I'm glad I did.
Well, look, man, put a link
on the journey. That's why, because I'm on the journey. So I didn't even see anything.
You know what goes great with that journey? The word. Let me tell you what.
Some cold walkie shoes to keep the leopards away when you're on the trail. But folks, thank you for joining us for another episode. Again, if you enjoyed the content, please go ahead and hit the like button. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe today. And so, Malik, until next time, my friend.
All right, man. You as well. Be well.
Peace.
Take care.